number one.
Right.
Um, as far as leadership and management, how do you balance the need for strong leadership with the importance of collaboration and teamwork?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're a leader, you know, oftentimes in any bureaucracy, in any organizational structure, people see the people at the top like it's like the police in the streets.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not always easy to get along with the people you have to supervise.
Yeah.
So how do you balance that
Well,
strong leadership when you have to collaborate and work as a team?
yeah. Well, that's the key, right? The collaboration and the teamwork. There's a huge difference between being a leader and a manager.
Yes.
And this whole superintendency is of the notion that we are leaders first. We're leaders who see people, we see the value in people. Um, Janice always says we operate under the pedagogy of critical love. Critical love leadership for us is how does love show up in the work that we do every single day? Um, that's what we always ask ourselves. And as a leader, we have to galvanize communities. We have to galvanize folks who see leadership within themselves that they can tap into and help others to tap into to those leadership qualities. It's not the management. Management is anyone can be a manager. Anyone can be a manager and check off all the compliance things that need to be done. But it's how do you organize a community to do something that will benefit them without making them feel that they're being compliant or that they're being forced to do it. It's creating joy in the work. It's making sure that everyone sees themselves important as an important part of getting that goal accomplished.
Can you share an instance where your community engagement efforts led to positive outcome for the district?
Oh my gosh! I mean, I can
Choose
think of
one.
I can
I know
think
you
of
have a
a
million.
myriad,
Yeah.
a myriad of them. Um, Before I became a deputy superintendent, I was a director, and as a director, I brought to the district the My Sister's Keepers program. As a principal, I had a My Brother's Keepers program because we found that there was a lot of our boys just getting in trouble all the time. And then when we looked at the way in which they were performing in comparison to the girls, there was always like a 10% difference. And so we thought about getting our boys mentorship and getting them all the supports that are out there, having them see role models that look like them, and being able to kind of forge relationships that way with different partners.
So it was the girls that were performing at a 10% better rate than the
Yes,
boys.
yes.
That is not a new phenomenon. Trust me.
Not new, not new. And that's why I had to fill that gap in my school. And
Yeah.
we did fill that gap. After bringing those programs, we filled that gap. The boys were giving the girls a run for their money afterwards. And then one of the girls in my school looked at me in the hallway. I'll never forget. She said, I cannot believe you are a female principal and you have just a program for boys. And it really hit me because I'm
That
like,
sounds like something my daughter would say.
I mean, she just made me feel the most guilt ever. And I said to myself, why don't I have a girls program? That doesn't make sense. But I know why I did the boys program. But then I started my sister's keeper program in my school, and that hit off. Like we tapped into JFK International Airport that has a women's aviation group that I didn't know about, but my school was right next to JFK. So we tapped into the president of the international terminal, and he said, I can connect you to so many women who are in science and STEM fields, and that's what we did for our girls. So when I came to the district, I brought the opportunity for the girls as well. So instead of tapping into my 500 girls in my school, we were tapping into 19,000 girls in our district.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that answered my next question. So I'm just going to move right along. As a superintendent, I'm quite sure you have to be responsible for a lot of money as far as budgeting. So my question as far as financial management is, how have you managed the district's budget to ensure fiscal responsibility while still meeting your educational goals?
Believe it or not, the district doesn't have a lot of money.
Why do all school systems say that?
The district does not, and that was eye opening for me when
Mm,
when I came over to the district position. I looked at the district's budget in comparison to the budget for my school as a principal, and I was like, wow, we can't even buy pens. Like, what's going on here? Yeah, the district doesn't really have a lot of funding. However, we support our principals in managing their funding and maximizing the funding to support their schools. I always say to principals, and I lead the new principal development program in our district where we meet with all new and newish principals who've been principals for like a year, 2 years, 3 years. And so every month I lead their professional learning. And the topic that always comes up is budget. How are you making sure that your budget aligns to the needs of your students? And we know that they don't have a lot in their budgets. They don't have a lot, but they do have a lot of resources in the city. And so I tell principals all the time, you got to tap into those resources. There's every organization that's ready to support your vision. You just have to have that vision and you have to share that vision out so someone can hear you. And believe it or not, someone is sitting waiting to be asked to support students. And they willingly, openly help. I remember raising $12.5 million for my students. I had a budget of 9 million, and that budget paid for everybody. It was salaries, it was everything. So you can imagine, after all salaries are paid out, furniture,
you
computers,
might have a
books,
quarter left.
you might have a quarter, maybe 20, maybe 30 cents. You'll probably have 30 cents left, right?
Yeah.
And so I know that my school's budget could not support the vision that I had for students. So I needed to tap into organizations. I needed to tap into businesses that were going to end up getting our students anyway when they grew up, right? So we tapped into, as I said, JFK was right there. We had a photography program, told them we have a photography program. We can give you pictures. We can beautify the airport, which they allowed us to do for years. They allowed our pictures to be a part of the airport display. And so in exchange, I said, buy cameras for our kids. And so every year they were buying cameras, right? We needed, we have a heavy population of Caribbean students in the school system.
Of course. This is
Heavy
New York City.
population,
This is
right?
New York City.
New York City. And so when our kids come, when they migrate, just like me, when I migrated, I wanted to kind of be reminded of the place of my birth. And so, it's a concrete jungle in New York City. And so I wanted to build a schoolyard in the back of my school that had trees, that they can sit under benches and they could read books. And I tapped into the council members, the council member at the time, and I said, "This is the vision. This is what I want." He gathered some folks from school construction authority. They had no money, you know, but they sat, listened to the plans, and together went somewhere, came back and said, "Hey, we found $4 million to make it happen for you." And made it happen. We had a huge, beautiful schoolyard at the end, beautiful trees that they kind of imported from all over the nation, and our kids were able to sit under a tree, open up a book, and read it. You know, the sky's the limit when it comes to students, and I tell principals to dream big for the students. Don't just think about just, okay, we're going to get them through high school and get them the diploma that they came to get, but you're developing the next leader. And in order for them to be the next leader, they need to be exposed to leadership. They need to be exposed to the possibilities of the things that they can do to really change our world.
Yep. Well said. Um, moving right along. There are people. I'm quite sure there's this school of thought out there that teaching, educating is somewhat of a dangerous job, given the climate of these United States. school shooting has become a phenomenon. Unfortunately, hate to talk about it, but it's reality. Um, there are some people who are teachers who's probably when these things do happen, they probably think, I gotta find something else to do. So my question to you is, as it pertains to staff development and particularly retention, how do you support professional development opportunities for teachers and staff? And what strategies have you employed to recruit and retain high quality teachers within the school district?
Wonderful question. Um, Thank God, New York City is still one of the safest places to educate your child. One of the safest cities. Thank God for that.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, and it's because of the people that we do recruit and train and support in that. The one thing that I can really attest to after being in the system for 26 years, it's not a system that welcomes you, says here's some books, here's a curriculum, go teach, and then we forget about them, right? We make sure that our teachers are qualified and are continuously developed throughout their experience and their careers. As far as the danger, I always tell people, like, it's a calling. Being an educator is a calling, and you can't walk into this with fear. You can't. You have to see the possibilities of children. You have to see into their futures. Every child that comes your way, you have to be able to look in their eyes and see the utmost positive possibilities of their future. And you got to ask yourself, what am I doing today to support this child in getting to that future? So it means you got to be dedicated. You can't. New York City is not for the faint of heart. We're not. We're just not, right? You have to come in it. You got to be bold. You got to be courageous. And you have to understand that people's lives depend on you. And once you understand that and forget about, being fearful of really getting this done, you'll be surprised at the amazing things that you can bring to, your future leaders. I also want to add to that, the child that I was pregnant with when I graduated high school started his teaching career this year as an English teacher, high school. What are the odds? What are the odds, right? Yeah. So, and he was running away from education, period. He was just,
The man gonna fall too far from the mango tree.
I
Still in
mean,
there.
I didn't even, they said that, but didn't know it was fall right then and there.
Yeah.
So my son, who's now 28, 29, he became an English teacher of a high school, but he's in Texas. And he's in a very tiny blue part of the red state. And so I'm able to now, tap into, as a mother, like tap into the local news in Texas. I've never been, but I heard about it. And again, it's that fear that comes over me because, we hear about the school shootings in other states, thank God. And, Texas was just one of those states that experienced that. And I think about that all the time. But the thing that I remember the most, and it goes back to being a person born in YALLAHS, a person who was helped and supported in her life by her strong grandmother who had 12 children. And she was born in 1932. And she was of the era of the donkey and the lantern, what am called, the
lamp.
light, the lamp them,
Yeah.
the kerosene lamp them.
Yeah.
And she moved from that lifestyle to having multiple personalized phone rings when anybody call her. When our granddaughter call her, she have a different ringtone. When our daughters them call her, she have a different ringtone for that too.
Cognitively sharp.
Cognitively sharp, okay? And so she represented for me that fearlessness. That fearlessness. Every time she's passed on now, and may God rest her soul. Um, but every time I visited grandma when I was a teacher, I would make sure to go like in August because it was right before the new school year started, and that kind of was the motivation that I needed to come back and really know that there's no fear,
Mhm.
there's possibilities.
Always.
Yeah.
New York City being probably one of the largest cities in the world.
Hmm.
Um, People like to think it's the ultimate melting pot, but this is still America. All the
Hmm.
isms and the biases exist.
Yes.
The racisms,
Yeah.
social stratification,
Hmm.
colorism, you name it.
Everything.
Um, how have you worked to promote equity and inclusion in the district, ensuring that all students have access to a high quality education?
Yeah.
Inclusion.
Inclusion. Absolutely. That's been something that has been a part of my fiber, my fabric. Um, as a child in New York City, I had a teacher who made sure that I had access to the utmost um, excellent experiences in schools. And when I was in a regular elementary school, he tapped into my strengths and my abilities and said, "You need to be in this type of school." And so he cemented for me the realm of possibilities of what inclusion can be and what high expectations can look like. And so I take that with me. That's my mantra. I make sure that every student that's in our school systems, and especially Brooklyn North High Schools, that every student has access to high quality education. We provide, again, that professional development opportunity
Mhm.
as a representative of the 47 schools. When we go to one school and we see amazing practices, we multiply those practices across the district. When we notice that there's some schools that are struggling with funding, we make sure that we are supporting those schools and accessing the resources so to create that kind of balance across our district. We make sure that any programs that we have and that we bring to the district, that every student has access to it. We hold very high expectations. We have our goals that we set for every single school, doesn't matter what community, because we have schools that are borderline Queens and all the way over to Sunset Boulevard. And we know that in certain communities, you have higher incomes than others. But we, as district supports and deputy and superintendent, we make sure that all of our kids have equal access to everything. We walked into a school, a couple of our schools, that have like a swimming program, right? So our kids would go to their English classes, second period and third period, they were in their diving suits and diving in and learning how to do that. And so when we came across to the other side of the district and realized that that wasn't happening, we tapped into our council members and tapped into some of our political officials and said, hey, we need to get pool access to our kids on this side. So we've had, new buildings being built in communities with pool access for our kids. But that's our goal.
Everybody gets the experience.
Everyone gets the experience.
Mm.
Yeah.
What would you say is the number one challenge facing your district, and what steps are you taking to solve it? Number
The
one problem.
the number one problem. Um, the number one problem right now is making sure that our students and our staff are fully back. We just came off pandemic, and
And COVID ain't going
and
nowhere.
COVID hasn't gone anywhere, right?
Ain't
Hasn't
going.
gone anywhere. So it's making sure that we learn new approaches to the work, and making sure that, we navigate this new normalcy. That when we look at attendance and when we see that, you have staff who's out because they have COVID, or students who are out because they have COVID,
Mhm.
making sure that they have access to the things that they will miss in their absences. So that I wouldn't say that's a big challenge. It's not a huge ask, but it has presented as a challenge and
It's
a new
lingering.
challenge that we haven't ever dealt with before. Yeah.
What's your long-term goal for your district?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, we're currently at 92% graduation.
Hmm.
I want to see 100%. I want to see
It's
100%.
feasible.
Yeah. And we were at, I think, 94% for our attendance rate. 94% of our students come to school.
It's
And
pretty good.
in a high school setting, yeah, we want 100. We want 100. And we want to decrease that chronic absenteeism because that's when kids come to school 4 days a week instead of five. Um, we want to decrease that. Last year we ended up at in the 30s, and
Mhm.
that just means 30% of our students, about 6,000 of our students are coming to school 3 to 4 days a week. We can't have that because every day that they're absent, they're missing something and something profound that's going to impact their lives. So we want 100% graduation, we want 100% attendance, and we want 0% chronic absenteeism. That's our goal.
How would you say your Jamaican heritage has helped you to sustain in this job that you do? Very important job.
Hmm. So a lot of decisions that have to be made has us going up against giants. And I mean giants. I mean like organizational giants. I mean giants in personalities and giants
Political
in
giants.
politics and but every day I keep hearing we're little but we're talawa. We're little but we're talawa.
I don't think I have to
Right?
explain that for anybody that watches this.
Little but with Talawa. And even when I sit in rooms with folks and I'm coming up against giants and have to really talk about and speak about our goals as a district and trying to prioritize that for them,
Mhm.
you know, I'll sit back and just think about with Liklina, but with Talawa. And that's the mantra that has really guided my work here at the district.
So we look about with Talawa,
Hmm.
that mantra made you know how to move in a room full of vultures.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Cause you go see me as me is, and everybody who sees me does can't really come to the understanding of she's a deputy superintendent, right? And that's the littleness of who I am. That's the
Mhm.
littleness of who I am. I'm gonna walk around with this
And if you're
whole
watching this, you don't understand Patwa. I'll translate for you. You could call me at 201-578-4153. I'll translate that for you.
exactly. You see the littleness of me just just navigate, but I understand the talawa that's within the power
Paul
that
Bogle
stays
breed,
within. Yes.
straight from St. Thomas,
Yep.
JA.
Trickle down to the McNabb family.
And let me tell you something. She's
Through.
from Yallas, right? If you think Yallas is just about jerk chicken, when you go to Yallas Square, buy your jerk chicken and keep it moving, yeah?
yes.
Don't piss off nobody down there.
No, because that Paul Bogle, okay?
The spirit there running
It's
away.
right in there, right there. And that to me definitely has summed up my journey as an educator, 26-year educator in New York City.
Listen, thanks for being on the program. I'm proud of you. We could keep going, but we got time constraints. I'm honored. I wish you the best. I want to say thanks to Mr. Garfield Collins. Don't you big up yourself.
Denny.
Thanks to Dr. Nino Morris. And thanks to everybody who made this happen for us. One last, any parting words for people of St. Thomas?
I want to say to you, Gary, thank you. Thank you for highlighting the rainbow and the light and the love from our beautiful parish in St. Thomas, because I think everybody has a journey and a purpose. And when you say yes to that journey, you are doing so much more in society than you can imagine. And I want to thank you so much for doing that and for reaching out and really trying to highlight. I've seen some of your members on your show, and I am just enamored by just the strife and the strength within them and the power that comes out of them saying yes to their journeys. So thank you for providing that
And
opportunity.
we're on a mission, so you guys need to subscribe to the channel, all right?
Yes.
We're on a mission
Subscribe.
to show the world what we're about in St. Thomas, Jamaica, all right?
Absolutely.
And on that note, we out. Another one in the can. Paul Bogle Country forever, all right?
All right.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the program. Please check out our apparel at thereallicense.com. And remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost any money unless you're just acting funny.
Haha, you hear what my baby said.